And so think about this. You have a stock trading program where you are advertising it as you have this methodology that will show you how to trade stocks, whatever you're trading. And you tout an example of someone who's bought your course or your platform, whatever you're selling. And that person is saying, I made 100 grand last year. That person might have made 100 grand, but they also had to put 150 grand into the market. And so they're actually down 50 grand. So that whole statement is, while literally true, they made 100 grand, but they're also...
Chicken. They're actually out $50,000.
They're out.
So what is the definition of a reasonable consumer?
So it's going to be...
So you might think that your marketing is super persuasive, but what if it's actually illegal? The FTC isn't just going after scammers anymore. They're coming for everyday businesses like yours and mine. One sentence in your copy could be the difference between scaling to 7 figures and getting slapped with a cease and desist. Or worse, a multi-million-dollar fine. Hi, I'm Emma Rainville, co-founder of multiple 7-figure businesses and the Wizard of Ops. I live at the intersection of execution and scale. And I've seen firsthand how legal mishaps and copy and funnels can derail everything you've built. Joining me is my co-host, Ryan Poteet, an FTC Compliance attorney at Gordon Reese, who's worked with major brands and government regulators. He knows exactly where the legal lines are drawn and how fast marketers are crossing them without realizing it. Today, we're diving into the gray area between smart advertising and deceptive marketing. What feels like clever copy to you could be misleading in the eyes of the law. We'll walk you through the legal definition of deception, real examples of quote-unquote smart marketing that triggered lawsuits, what the FTC is targeting in 2025, and the exact wording you should and shouldn't use in your ads and copy. Stick with us until the end because we've got a free checklist that you can download. It's going to be your go-to guide to keep your copy compliant and your conversion strong. You're going to download it at the Visionary Vault at www.specialopspodcast.com. More about that later. Let's start with understanding the legal definitions. How does the FTC define deceptive advertising?
I think there's 3 components.
Okay.
An ad needs to be truthful, not misleading, and well substantiated. We've already talked about the evidence substantiation component. So let's think about the first 2 elements. You can have an ad that is literally true, a statement that is literally true, but the FTC will say it's deceptive because it's otherwise misleading. And so think about this. You have a stock trading program where you are advertising it as you have this methodology that will show you how to trade stocks better or whatever you're trading. And you tout an example of someone who's bought your course or your platform, whatever you're selling, and that person is saying, I made 100 grand last year. That person might have made 100 grand, but they also had to put 150 grand into the market. And so they're actually down 50 grand. So that whole statement is, while literally true, they made 100 grand, but they're also...
Chicken. They're actually out $50,000.
They're out. Because the reasonable consumer would say, hey, I made 100 grand last year. I made 100 grand in profit.
So what is the definition of a reasonable consumer?
So it's going to be audience specific.
Okay.
It is going to be, the example I was just using about stock trading. Your stock trading audience, you can assume that they have a certain level of knowledge about stock trading, options, the core of the product that you're ultimately selling.
Right.
If you are selling a dietary supplement that's geared towards the elderly people, you can assume that it would be a more of like an 8th grade reading level, something that is easily understood. You're not using complex medical terms that would just go over anyone's head.
Confuse them, yeah.
Exactly. You need to make it digestible, understandable, so that they can easily understand what you're trying to say.
So it really isn't intent and claims and marketing. It's perception of your reasonable customer.
Correct.
That's super interesting. I'd love to give some examples or go through some examples of some risky marketing tactics. So limited time only. Well, I only have 10,000 units of custom product left. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to do another manufacturing run. So technically it's limited time only.
I'm going to say that is more likely than not going to be misleading or...
It's not going to be.
Why?
You said it's not going to be?
No, I think that it will be because because we all know that it's like, well, it's only a 10,000 bottle run. And so, yes, sure, if you were marketing this as truly a 10,000 bottle run, like we've only got so much product left and then it's gone forever, fine. But more often than not, we're trying to create this false sense.
If we can do another manufacturing run,
If we can do more,
If we can get all the raws.
yeah, and we're actually going to be doing it, which more often than not, we're already kind of headed down that road anyway. But no, taking your hypothetical and not, bucking it, there's only 10,000 bottles. We have no intention of going forward presently. I say this almost tongue in cheek because it's like, the second we make this decision, we're going to change that. But if there is no intention of going forward, it's a one-off run, then I think it's a limited time offer. That's fine. But as we all know,
Yeah.
that changes, because that's the decision that you're making at the limited time. That's not what you're going to get in trouble for. It's when you're on batch 10 and then all of a sudden you get hit with like a consumer class action or something saying that all of this is deceptive because you created this false market that doesn't otherwise.
So how can I create the same? Because I love to give the problem and then the solution. So a limited time offer makes people need to buy it right away because I may not be able to get it tomorrow. What does limited even mean? Is that tomorrow? Is that next month? What does that mean? So what are some ways? Let's walk through some ways that we can create that same scarcity. And so we've talked about this on other podcasts, and if I may, how about your first month on the membership program is free, or you get a free t-shirt. And the t-shirts can be limited time only. It's really easy to change. By the way, it's really easy to change what the t-shirt is and come out with a different design. And like every 4,000 t-shirts come out with a different design. Weight loss programs, I think, are the best for the t-shirt model. Because you can have tons of it's so hard because I can't actually say any weight loss. I'm just going to do Insanity because they actually did this. So Insanity, when you ordered Insanity, you got I'm Insane, Workout Jane or something like that. And then when you hit your goal weight, you got one like I Did It, something like that. But they kept changing the design. Mm-hmm. And by changing the design, it was limited time only. And it was on the bonus, not the actual product, right? So there are ways to do that. I need to buy right now.
Creating a legitimate sale.
Right.
I mean, for a limited time only, we are going to slash this by X%, provided that it's actually a sale. And we've talked on other podcasts about whether or not it's a sale or not, so long as
long as you bounce back and forth. And
Exactly.
you can bring the sales back here and there, but you got to bounce back and forth. I more like doing the bonuses that change for a limited time. When you buy X, you're going to get this, and this for free. And then all of these things, they don't even have to massively change. I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but I've done it where it's the same ebook inside contents, different covers and names. We didn't make any claims about the ebook. It's like, here's a recipe guide for spring, here's one for summer, here's one for fall. And we did recipes that could go for everything, right? But anyway, so.
Well, think Mike Lindell, MyPillow.
Sure. Oh, God, please.
He's got, you see him in the press and he's gotten,
He has a very big brain, too.
Well, I mean, if
he needs a big pillow for his big brain.
I mean, if you asked anybody how much is a MyPillow, I mean, I think that I actually don't know what
I
it
have
is.
no idea what my pillow is. I would never buy one.
But it's always $99.95 on sale for
Is it?
the same? It's always the same sale over and over and over again, and that's why he's got in trouble because he creates.
Did he get in trouble?
I mean, he got a slap on the wrist.
Okay. Anyway, so guaranteed results. Let's move into that. I love guaranteed results. I absolutely love guarantees. Placed correctly, worded compliantly, guarantees can do a lot for your business. What I can't say is 100% results guarantee.
Yeah, a better way to do this is, like we were talking, you tie it to a refund program. Mm-hmm. We know you're going to love it so much that buy our product. If you don't like it, 100% refund guarantee.
We stand behind the product so strongly that we will give you a 120-day money-back guarantee just for trying us out. Try us consistently for the next 4 months, and if you don't see X in differences, we're happy to give you your money back. You're not guaranteeing the product's going to work. You're guaranteeing that if you don't like the results of the product, you'll give them their money back.
Exactly.
It's the same damn thing. I think that the money back is stronger than the results.
Because at that point, there's no risk.
Right.
Because it's like, well, okay.
Right. Try this risk-free for 120 days. Mm-hmm. You should see results in 90, right? Mm-hmm. I want to just hop the fence for a minute. So testimonials, my responsibility as a business owner, when someone leaves me an unsolicited testimonial on Facebook, in a group, on an ad, on Instagram, on my website, on Yelp, on Google, Trustpilot, what is my responsibility? I lost 20 pounds in 1 week doing your juice fast.
So nitpick the word testimonial in the ad law world means it's an advertisement for the brand.
Yep.
So unsolicited, somebody just comes and posts,
I love this product on an ad. I love this product.
Consumer review. That we're going to call it a consumer review.
Okay.
Unsolicited, unincentivized, no liability.
Okay.
You are not responsible for it. People can come and share their experience and whatever they want. Think Amazon storefronts. When you start soliciting, incentivizing reviews, that's when it gets kind of turned into more of a testimonial. And that's when it's going to actually become an advertisement for the business. And so that's what starts triggering all of the all the material connection disclosures that we've talked about in another podcast. That there's a relationship with the brand, that there's some sort of incentive that's being provided, whether free product, cash, whatever it is.
I don't want to muddy the waters here and get people confused. Okay, so we have unsolicited testimonials or product reviews. If you're not paying them for it, if you didn't ask for it, if they just randomly put it up there and then you don't capture it and use it in your marketing, you're not responsible for it.
You can capture even the unsolicited ones. You can capture and put it in your marketing.
But it needs to be compliant at that point.
And that's where it gets
muddy.
From a black
Trying so hard to stay out of the damn mud. You always drag me into it.
There is authority out there. It is entirely unsolicited. It is being posted to either a third-party website, even the business's own website, where it's appearing that the business wouldn't be ultimately liable for that. Yeah. The problem is we typically start interacting with these reviews even more. Mm-hmm. And when you start highlighting reviews, and this is where it gets, I think, more problematic. If you are then highlighting these reviews, we're using either a consumer review or a testimonial where the person or the speaker is saying something that they can't say about the product or that you couldn't otherwise say. And when it looks like you're touting this and adopting it as your own kind of advertising statement, that's when you're going to get in trouble. But very, very basic, unsolicited consumer reviews, no liability. Incentivized consumer reviews or testimonials, there will be liability.
Okay.
Provided that you don't comply with the material connection disclosures and some other things.
Okay. Then you have reviews that's like, hey, do you love our product? We'd love to hear about it.
So soliciting.
We'll send you a free gift.
So you're soliciting reviews at that point. So the second you start saying, it doesn't matter what it is, come leave us a review, or hey, we just want to hear about your experience.
Even if you're not giving them anything.
If you're giving them something, this is where I think some of us will disagree. If you were just saying, hey,
so
come
let's take two buckets, and I don't care who disagrees with you. I want to hear Ryan's take, okay? If you're not paying and you just say, hey, for example, I send you my book, Scope. And in the book is a bookmark. And it says, if you liked my book, this may or may not be real. If you like my book, here's a QR code, leave me a review. If you don't, fuck off. May or may not be real. That's a solicited review. Mm-hmm. I didn't pay for it.
You're soliciting it, though.
But I gave you a bookmark for it, kind of. But
FTC.
But I'm soliciting it. So what is my rules there when I haven't paid anything?
FTC is going to say that you need to disclose the fact that you're actively soliciting reviews. I don't necessarily think that you have to do that. I've gotten in arguments with regulators on that point.
Okay.
Because there's no, hey, just come leave us a review. There's no incentive. We just want to hear, frankly, from a business perspective, if somebody doesn't like our product, we would actually like to hear about it. If you're doing this to everyone.
I don't want to hear it. Don't leave me any fucking comments. I don't want to hear it.
But the FTC is going to take the position. If you were soliciting in any way.
I'm totally joking, by the way. I'm very, very, very interested in what my consumers think of my.
But the FTC is going to take the position that needs to be disclosed. But I think really more importantly, if you were then going to say, hey, come review, I don't care, good, bad, ugly, we want to hear it all. Leave us a review.
Leave your unbiased, honest feedback.
Yeah, and you're going to
help us get better.
Yeah, and you're going to get 5% off. That's typically what these look like more often than not. That is really going to require the full-blown material connection disclosure.
Unless you're Delta, because then you send me a 36-question review, and in the end, I think I'm probably going to get 1,000 Sky Miles or something. Nothing. 10 minutes of my life to review your stupid new interactive freaking screen, and you give me nothing but 5% off. I'm just still salty. Mm-hmm. But I love Delta. I'm a diamond. Don't no fly me.
You're going to have to give anytime there's any sort of incentive, you're going to have to give that material connection.
Do you like how I act like people actually watch this? Delta, some executive at Delta is sitting there right now. What's her name?
That's why when we're throwing out brand names, I'm just mum on most of these.
Okay, so back to testimonials. I'm so sorry. All right, now, finally, paid testimonials, true paid testimonials. You and I worked together with a client that had a long-time customer It was a weight loss company. She had kept the weight off for 4 years. She had lost 68 pounds, which were typical results, by the way, of this in particular client. The woman was just really well spoken, and she did a really good job, kind of like as an ambassador. We flew her out to our studios in southern US, and we filmed her and her testimonial, and we gave her some money, and we took her out, and we had a great time. Had a great time with her. That's not what I mean, but we had a great time showing her the city. And so we had to write a lot of disclaimers there because it went on the front end of our VSL and it went on the bottom of our page as part of a testimonial. We can use those, and we can absolutely solicit those, and we absolutely can pay people to do testimonials. But my understanding, there are 2 components to this. The first one is we have to disclose that we paid for it. And the second one is it has to actually be true. I can't just pay you, Ryan, to come and pretend like your testimonial is real.
You couldn't have said it any better. The testimony needs to accurately reflect that person's experience with the product, whether it's a product or a service, but the person is telling a truthful experience about their, whether it's their use of a dietary supplement or a program or whatever it is. It needs to be accurate. And then if you are incentivizing or compensating them, you need to disclose that. And it's, it can either be through, the paid partnership toggle in social media, which the FTC and regulators have some varying opinions on, or through hashtags, but you still need to keep those material connection disclosures.
Okay. And then the last thing I want to talk about, which we've talked about quite a bit, we could probably just do a whole podcast on testimonials, but is documentation or proof of the testimonials. What do I need to keep?
So the paid testimonials, we want their contact information, like name, address, email. What I like to do is have a brief description of like the product that they bought, their experience, so that there's at least some sort of record that we vetted this person to a certain extent. We know what they were saying. We know what the content of the testimonial is going to be. And then, we like to have whether it's in Google Drive or somewhere else, like a link to where that testimonial is appearing, and then the actual substance and content of that testimonial.
Awesome. So some more examples of risky marketing tactics that I'm just going to mention briefly, but not actually go through because we've talked about it many times on other podcasts, is fake urgency tactics, countdown timers that aren't real, fake scarcity, which we touched on a little bit with limited time only today, and manufactured pressure. And what I mean by manufacturing pressure is we don't know how long we're going to be able to get these raws. Meanwhile, it's wasabi extract that's been around forever and is going to be around forever. Or we don't know how long Big Pharma is going to let us, they're going to take us down soon. That's what I mean by that. So that's great examples of risky marketing tactics. Social proof through paid but not disclosed. So basically, let me go get, just because I hate the Kardashians and I talk about them so much, I don't actually even hate the Kardashians. It's just the only name I know. So I go pay one of the Kardashians to say that they've been taking my weight loss product. Meanwhile, I'm sure they got a tummy tuck. And, look at my great waist. Or they used one of those, what are those corsets? Used one of those corsets to get those great curves and said it was my product so that I paid them. I didn't disclose it. It wasn't real. And so that's what I'm talking about there. And then stick through pricing, which we've talked about before. And that's basically $49.99, but get it today for $24.99. But it isn't actually sold in the fair market value. Hasn't been, is it last
90 days.
Last 90 days. So last 3 months, it hasn't been that price. But yet I'm putting a stick through the pricing and saying it's valued at when it hasn't even sold for that in the past 90 days. So your majority of your pricing needs to be that. I want to go into how we say these things legally and how we accomplish these things legally. So we talked about some of the things. We talked about some of the testimonials. But when disclaimers are required, where do we place them and how do we utilize them so it'll actually help conversions instead of kill conversions?
So what I like clients to do is make them as organic feeling as possible. So if we're talking about a typicality disclosure for a testimonial, like you can say, these are our highest, or an atypicality disclosure. It's like, hey, these are our highest performing students. These are the successful people, or just putting people on notice that these are, outliers. That this is not going to be typical, but you can do that in the narrative text so it doesn't feel like this big bolded disclosure, results not typical, or with a longer disclosure of like actually what would be. So you can actually build it into the copy so it doesn't feel so off-putting.
Okay, that's great. And then the last one I want to do is benefit-driven statements. So you and I have spent a lot of time discussing how to accomplish benefit-driven statements. So what I mean by that when I say that is will cure cancer, relieves joint pain, cures tinnitus, restores eyesight, eliminates bloating. How do I say these things compliantly so that I don't get in trouble, but also can say those things and leave the person thinking this is going to cure my cancer? That's not what I meant to say. But I'm not going to suffer from joint pain anymore. I'm not going to be bloated and feel uncomfortable anymore. I'm not going to, not be able to see across the room anymore. How do I do that?
With all good advertising, you're not selling the product itself. You're selling some sort of outcome, right? And so...
Can you say that again? Because I want every listener to... That's a writer-downer right there. That's a Perry Belcherism, by the way. Perry Belcherism.
I think
Number one, that's the first one you and I have done, but that's a writer-downer. Say that again, Ryan.
You're not selling a product, you're selling an outcome. And so we were talking off air about I think it was a Super Bowl ad, and it was talking about, this elderly person who couldn't lift their grandchild, and they were, working out and all of this. I forget what product they were ultimately selling, but they were selling
They didn't do that good of a job.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, they were selling, it's like this person wants strength, vitality, wants to be able to be a part of that family. There's all sorts of ways when you can talk about like with joint pain and joint support, and like you're not selling this product. Like ultimately it's going to hopefully have some therapeutic benefit to your knees or something like that. But you're selling getting back in the swing, getting, playing golf, being with your family. You can focus your ads on that instead of being like, hey, you don't want joint pain anymore, take this product.
Right.
It's, hey, do you want to be more involved in your family? Do you want to be able to do X, Y, and Z?
Right. We got little Susie and Jimmy to go running through the field with you in your retirement. Right.
Exactly.
That's great.
Prescription drug advertising, even if the rules for advertising are entirely different, but they do a really good job of that. It's like, men, do you have a problem? And there's all this, imagery of what's going on, and they're selling it out.
I don't understand. Oh, God, I don't want to get on a tangent. I really don't. But ADHD met ADD, and here we are in a podcast room. I don't understand how those freaking drug companies, they have to disclose the craziest shit. May cause suicidal thoughts, impotence, rashes, hallucinations, nosebleeds, gout, ear bulging, hair loss. But go ahead and take it for allergy relief. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, try summing that all up in a really, really small display ad scroller.
Right.
That's fun.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should wrap up. Because it's just about that time. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me.
Emma.
Again, this has been so fun. For those of you that don't know, we have decided to do a spin-off of Special Ops Podcast, which is my podcast, and do Marketing on Trial. Ryan and I have been friends for a decade, have worked together with many clients between us. We've handled over 100 clients. You probably have done well over 100 clients at this point, yeah? We've handled hundreds of clients, legal and operations. We have over 30 years experience in the industry between us, and we genuinely, absolutely adore each other. So it just made total sense for us to come and spend lots of time of him not billing me for me to ask him questions. And so here we are with Marketing on Trial. Join us Fridays on the Special Ops Podcast channel. So wrap us up, I just want to say, here's the deal. We're not saying don't sell hard. We're saying sell smart. Ryan and I both believe that you can scale without stepping in legal hot water, but it takes knowing where the landmines are, and that's exactly why we're here today and doing this episode. If you'd like to, you can head over to www.specialopspodcast.com. Sign up for our Visionary Vault. We have lots of tools. We've co-written a bunch of things in there. I've got some courses in there. My team has a bunch of stuff in there, and we've written together the Smart Ad Compliance Checklist. It's real-world examples of what crosses the line, language you should update ASAP, a checklist that you can use before you hit publish on your next campaign. It's all inside the Visionary Vault, like I said, at www.specialopspodcast.com. So go grab it, stay compliant, stay profitable, and let's get back to scaling. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get notifications every time we post a new episode. Thank you.